Welcome to the CT Educator Podcast. I am your host, Karina Hogan. I am a registered CT technologist with 20 years of experience and knowledge. I help new CT technologists level up their CT training so that you can become a successful technologist. I'm also a mom and committed to sharing my knowledge and expertise to help you build your confidence, know the CT basics so that you can deliver quality patient care. So let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. So hope you guys are having an amazing week. So I am so ready for summer. I know it's still February and it's still cold and so I'm ready for summer already. So, because I am totally a person that loves to be outside with the sun and it's warm and I'm a total water person. And so are my kids. They like to be outside playing and doing all the things. Okay. So make sure you guys come to my live event. So I know I talked about this in the last podcast episode. So I'm hosting a live event. Okay. So the live event is going to be next week. It's 2 days. Make sure you check out the show notes. We're going to be talking about patient centering. Okay. I am going to share all my knowledge and skills on how to do that properly. So make sure you sign up for the live event. It's going to be a YouTube live where I will be teaching patient centering. Now, this is not going to be released to the public. So in order to get access to this YouTube live, you got to sign up for the live event, okay? Because this is going to be a private link and only those of you that sign up for the live event will have access to it. And you will have access to the replay as well. Also, I am taking 10 students for my 6-month coaching program, the CT Blueprint, where you come into my container. I'm going to coach you, get you ready to be the go-to CT tech, get you registry ready, and making sure that you learn the A through Z as far as the basics, your core exams, contrast, you name it, I am going to do it. So what do you get when you join? You get 6 months of coaching and mentorship with me. You get an entire course portal where I will give you all the trainings that I have recorded in the past, any live events. You will get a live training every single week for the next 6 months. You will also come into my private Slack community. So that's when I go ahead and I drop a lot of tech tips. I drop voice notes and things that I feel that you need to be learning as you're training. Okay. So that is the core of my program. So I take new CT technologists and I make you be the go-to CT tech. That is my job. I also have a couple of I have another program where it's a 90-day program. So that is tailored to traveling CT techs. So when you have, let's say 2 to 5 years of experience, you're interested in traveling, I get you ready to make sure that you can negotiate your contracts, make sure you're ready to go, make sure you need to know everything you need to know when it comes to being a traveling CT tech so that you can go ahead and be able to scan on day one. I also have a CT Basics and Concepts course. So I've taken 3 of my most popular courses, combined them into one course, and that is on demand where you can just go ahead and take it and learn on the go. So everything is in the show notes. Make sure you guys get on all the action and also follow me on social. Make sure you follow me on TikTok because I post a lot of protocol videos and a lot of educational stuff on there. Okay. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 5 common mistakes that I see new CT technologists make and how to avoid them. Now, as a new technologist, which I was a new technologist 22 years ago, we often find ourselves making some very common mistakes. And a lot of it is through trial and error. So as we're learning, it's okay to make mistakes. We're not saying it's not okay. It's okay as long as we're not harming anybody, right? So these common mistakes and the things that I'm going to tell you how to avoid them, sometimes if we're not learning from those mistakes, can hinder the techniques to learn them the correct way. Okay. So I'm going to give you 5 of the things that I have seen throughout my career and how to avoid these. Okay. The number one thing that I see every single time is technologists not asking questions. It is very important, especially in this line of work and our modality, to ask questions. CT is a very complex modality. There are so many moving parts that you cannot contain a lot of information in your brain because it's just too hard. Okay. Asking questions like saying, why did you do this protocol this way? Why does contrast do this? How can I, position the patient when they're contracted? How do I immobilize the patient? Asking questions is going to make you a better tech. Listen, I've been a tech a long time. I still ask questions. Okay. Like there are no wrong answers. Okay. And if I don't have the answers, I will say, you know what? I don't know. Let me ask somebody and then we'll get you the right answer. So make sure that you ask plenty of questions because I see a lot of technologists that don't ask questions and then they think they know everything. And then when they're faced on doing some complex exam, they can't do it. So ask questions. The second thing, which ties into the very first thing that I'd said, is taking notes and keeping a notebook. Listen, guys, you need to take notes and keep a notebook. You cannot contain all that fucking information in your brain. It's physically impossible and mentally impossible for you to contain everything that we do in your brain. It's not possible. Okay. And there is no shame in writing things down. Like behind me in my office, there is a tub of books. Those are all my radiology books. And let me tell you, there are a shit ton of CT notes in there. And there's even a notebook in my bag because sometimes I cannot contain everything. And sometimes techs will ask me questions. And I'll be like, I did that at this facility because it may be a little bit different where we are. And I whip out that notebook and I say, okay, this is what we did. Just to kind of give them another perspective. So my recommendation is take notes, keep a notebook. Don't be ashamed of that because writing things down is perfectly okay to remember and retain information. Okay. The third thing that I see is techs having bad habits. Okay. So I'm going to explain bad habits. Dirty rooms, not looking over orders and scanning wrong body parts, injecting people when they shouldn't be, not checking labs. Okay. Being lazy when it comes to patient centering, being rude to patients. Those are all things that I have seen. Okay. So you have to get into the habit of learning good habits. Okay. Making sure your room is stocked, making sure your room is ready. If the patient's coming, making sure your room is ready. Okay. With everything that you need, contrast, sheets, pillow, whatever it is that you need. Making sure that you look over your orders, check allergies, check labs, because that's very important. Okay. You can't just fly by, and making sure that you're reviewing the correct order and making sure that you're selecting the correct protocol. I can't tell you how many times technologists have scanned the wrong body parts because they were not paying attention to detail and not reviewing their orders. It's very important. We live in an electronic society where that can be missed. So before you put the patient on the table, before you scan them, make sure you check your labs, check your orders, check allergies, and make sure your room is prepped. I could tell you, patients see things, okay? Like I've had patients and say, there's blood on the scanner. And I didn't even know it. Like I'm going through the motions and cleaning, missed something, didn't even know. So patients do pay attention to detail. So make sure you learn your good habits. Don't learn bad habits. Pick up the good ones, okay? Now, the fourth thing, I talk about this on every damn podcast episode because I'm going to ingrain it into your brain. And guess what? I'm doing a live event on this, okay? So get ready to hear it. Patient centering and positioning. Listen, this is probably top mistake that I see every single time with technologists, new and experienced technologists. Okay. Like you have to make sure that your patient centering and the way you position your patients is done correctly. So That means using your damn laser light. Okay. We do not teach you to center to the Z axis for nothing. You have to make sure you do that properly. Let me tell you why that needs to be done properly, because the system is going to calculate the correct amount of dose if the patient's centered correctly. Okay. And then you're not underexposing or overexposing the patient. Now you're going to come at me and say, Karina, well, this patient's contracted, this patient's this patient's that. Okay. However, you can still center them properly. You can still get them in the middle if you can. Okay. And you can still center to the Z axis. Yes, the scan's not going to look pretty. It's not going to be perfect, but you also have to remember the type of patient demographics and the population that we're serving. Okay. So a lot of it's the elderly. A lot of them are disabled. A lot of them, are very sick. So you could still execute it properly and move things out of the way if possible. Okay. And still get a pretty decent exam. All right. So I know some of you are going to say, oh, well, this and that. Yes, there's a lot of factors that are thrown at us. However, you can still patient center them correctly to calculate the correct dose when you're taking your scalp. Okay. I see experienced people doing the same thing where they're underexposing the patient. Don't fucking do that. Do it correctly. Okay. Because that's why you have your physicist breathing down your neck about dose. I can't tell you how many dose meetings we have every year that the physicist preaches about centering and making sure that doses are within the thresholds. Okay. Because we do have a threshold. And if you want to keep your ACR accreditation, you have to be below that. Okay. So patient centering, make sure you execute that correctly. I teach this to every new technologist I train. That is the core of CT, to make sure that that is done properly. Now, the fifth and final thing, which I always tell everybody to do this, is make sure you speak up. Now, when I say speak up is when you see behaviors that are not appropriate with, let's say, for example, technologists that are training you that are rude, that refuse to train you, that don't want to show you things, that want to gatekeep, that are just annoyed. And let me tell you, we all have bad days, okay? We all have days where things are not right. You start off, a bad day because something happened at home, whatever the case is, okay? My attitude is that even though, one of my kids probably didn't want to put on her shoes to go to school and she threw a temper tantrum, as soon as I walk in through the threshold, through the doorstep of that hospital, I forget about what happened, because we're there to serve the patients and we have to be in the right state of mind, because when we're not, patients can get harmed and they can suffer. Okay. So when it comes to behaviors of techs training you, make sure that it's positive, make sure that, they are being respectful and that they're being polite. I know there's a lot of techs out there that are mean, they're angry, and, they've had a shitty day and they're, bitching and complaining about how many hours they work. That's a them problem. Okay. So speak up if, they're being rude, they're being condescending, and don't be afraid to call them out. I can't tell you how many techs I've called out in my day, because I do. And I call them out to this day. Okay. So, and then if there's any inappropriate behaviors, when it comes to other departments or staff, what I mean by staff is like physicians, because physicians think that, just because they're doctors, that we work for them. No, we work with you, not for you. So make sure that you speak up if, somebody's being rude or they're, treating you a certain way that's not appropriate. Okay. And also any inappropriate, situations where it can harm a patient. Let's say, maybe, you have a concern when it comes to contrast because the patient's kidneys, the labs are not great. Okay. Make sure that we get the okay via the radiologist or the ordering physician or whoever it is to make sure they document that, yes, this is what you want. Okay. Patients who are allergic to contrast. I can't tell you how many bumps in the roads we get with that. where, it could potentially harm a patient. And we step back and we go, okay, is this really appropriate? So speaking up and expressing your concerns, saying you're uncomfortable and you want them to, it's a patient safety issue, you know, um, the acronym is CUS. So CUS. So, you express concern, you say you're uncomfortable, and it's a patient safety issue and you want them to stop. Like, it has to stop right there. So speaking up is very valuable. Okay. And don't be afraid to speak up. You're not going to get in trouble because you speak up because you're trying to save an exam that may not be appropriate for the patient or may harm them. Or you want to be treated with respect because some other tech, doesn't want to train you because they think that, you're going to take their job from them. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, um, at different places that I've worked, that, that's the case because you may have a little bit more knowledge than them. That's not the case. Like, we all are here to build each other up, collaborate with each other. And when somebody doesn't know something and somebody else does, like, it's a learning experience. That's what it is. Like, continuing education, you have to keep it going because things change all the time. Okay. So those are my tips for this episode. Okay. And that is what I have for you this week. So make sure you guys sign up to the live event. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Make sure you sign up for the live event as well, okay? And if you're interested in coaching and mentorship, make sure you get into my programs because it's good stuff and I will teach you everything I know, okay? So thank you so much. Make sure you guys like, share. If this is valuable for you, share it with somebody that you know. Share it with another technologist, okay? So thank you so much for joining me on this episode, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you would like to share your CT experience, have an interesting story to share, or need help in your CT training, please email me your questions at contact@thecteducator.com. Follow along on Instagram at the CT Educator, also on Facebook at the CT Educator. Don't forget to like, share, leave a 5-star review, as this will help support the show and it'll reach all of you that need guidance. Thank you for listening and happy scanning.